Kwe Kwe Greetings. Welcome to another video. Um, Today, I'm gonna, really for real, try to be to the point. Um, I just came across something literally just now, sort of always looking at the issue of Indian sovereignty, okay? Uh, so what I saw just now, I thought would be good to look at to help Indians, as well as myself, to be very clear of origin. We have to know where the construct came from. If it didn't come from us, whether it be a government one, a religious one, if it didn't originate from Indians, we will never have authority in that construct. So what I'm starting to see is that this is like a legal edict, but I think also it's a spiritual one. The priests know that because they're the ones who make sure that you never even know the first thing. Now the priests are in the business, I've come to conclude, of taking away first things. They take away first things so that they can insert themselves. It's almost like some decision was made in the realm of a priesthood that people, men and women of the land, cannot talk to their creator without a mediator. So they have to remove something to insert themselves. And then it became a legal thing. Somewhere where something is put before you and you're told that them is the rules, but you're never really told where they came from or who made them up. So without getting too far off in my rant, I just want to pull up the Bill of Rights. First, we're going to look at the Bill of Rights, or it's an article on the Bill of Rights, but it speaks to where the Bill of Rights came from what I am reading. Okay, and then I'm going to try to go to the page that I was looking at that linked to the Bill of Rights. So I'm going to share my screen. Which screen is it? It's this one. Okay. Okay, there is the website. And I wanted to make it a PDF, but when I do that, what it does is it shows the link instead of the word, or it shows the word and the link. And I don't want to have the link all written out. I just want to see the word so we can read this. Okay, so here's from encyclopedia.com, and we're going to look at the Bill of Rights. Now, before we read this, if you wouldn't mind not jumping ahead right now, what I want to say is the first thing an Indian has to do is realize that this doesn't apply to you, okay? It doesn't apply to you. And that's what, is something that I have to remind myself as well. I refer to the Bill of Rights because the issue is that even those people, those foreigners who are building their sovereignty on this Bill of Rights, even though this is for them, they're being denied their own sovereignty. We all are. That is the bottom line. It's not just Indians that are being removed from their first position and authority. as the first people on the land, but the foreigner. They're the ones that are these documents would apply to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So I refer to them mostly to show really what the foreigner is supposed to have, but also since they're saying it applies to us too, I want to, which it doesn't. In reality, it doesn't. It's not supposed to, because we're not, as we read in one of the last videos, we were never part of the United States body politic. Now, the article we read said we weren't part of the American body politic. We are American. So we are, anything American is really us. But United States is something else, and we are not part of the United States body politic. Truly, we weren't even part of the United States of America body politic either. Now, that was the original corporation that, you know, got us all to say, okay, yeah, you know, well, all of the you know, all of the immigrants to say, yeah, we'll go with this. We kind of, it was a grab on, you know, that made us part of it. It was a grab, like, you know, just don't tell them about their sovereignty. Just make them think that they're supposed to be part of this citizenry. So that we were kind of just left in the dark by those who were supposed to represent us. And again, okay, I'm pontificating a little bit. When I say that I heard an Indian by the name of Chief Kalanago mention that the Iroquois were supposed to represent all Indians. And so now Chief Kalanago and I haven't talked to him about this, and he hasn't spoken to me. So it's not this development where he said that Iroquois were to basically be the Indian representative in this whole thing. This is not something that I, you know, came up with. I'm just hearing him, and this is apart from him speaking or knowing of anything I said. So, but it just so happens that, in other words, looking at what we did regarding who came up with the term Turtle Island, seeing how that is seen as something that all Indians believe, I would have to say I would agree with Chief Kalanago that somehow Iroquois are being made the final voice of anything seen as indigenous, you know? So if I can say that again, I had a shall we say, opening statement that says Iroquois were to be the representatives for the Indians of all the Americas, of North America, I believe. Going with that idea and then adding it to it, that somehow it has been promoted that Turtle Island is what all Indians called America. I can see that is clearly an Iroquois narrative. So it stands to reason that, yes, somewhere in here, the Iroquois version of the Indian story is the only one that is promoted. We didn't hear about grandfather in a boat and the muskrat. We don't hear about that. What is being said is it's a turtle, and this turtle grew and grew and grew, you see. So once again, I'm trying to say that you go to an origin and you find out who said what and who it applies to, or does it apply? Okay, so what Kalinago said, that part, I'm finding that I'm starting to agree with it more, especially after reading about the origin of Turtle Island, or the Turtle Island concept. The other thing he said was that the Republic was for Negro peons. So the Iroquois were to be the uplink for all Indians. The Republic was the uplink for the Negro peon. And finally, the United States of America was supposed to be the uplink, or the footing for the foreign. So let's try to break that down before we read about the Bill of Rights. So what an Indian has to, when we look at that, what an Indian should say is, well, they have to first ask the question, am I being represented well by the Iroquois? And what I said in my last video is the fact that most of us don't know that we're Indians, or our tribes have been systemically dissolved. I would say we're not being represented by the Iroquois very well, because we're not on the map. And in the case of the Algonquin, that's quite literally not on the map. We are now Canadian. And whatever Algonquins are here, I realize they're not, I don't think they're very given to speaking of being Algonquin. They have to go by literally, they're not really mentioning their linguistic group. They're just saying the name of the tribe, for instance, like Lenape. That was the example in the last one. But I realized it's not just Lenape. You know, I went with it because they were the ones who were basically co-signing on Turtle Island in the article we read. That was the Algonquin, or former Algonquin tribe, that we are seeing as co-signing on the turtle creation story, which is not what all Indians believe, but it is what Iroquois believe. So once again, I wanted to break that down even further, because I said that there are no Algonquins except like the ones who are not really calling themselves Algonquin anymore. They're going by their specific tribe name. But the truth I had to recalibrate is that no, we're still here. It's just that we have been conditioned to think of ourselves as Black or African Americans. And so it part of our hijack, a whole lot of it, is very mental. It's a mental conditioning that has the Algonquin thinking that he is now Black or from Africa. So this, again, if this is the best we got with Iroquois representing Indians, we need another representative. Okay. I want to say that it's not just the Iroquois that are not representing their team very well. It's all three of them. it's the Negro peons with the Republic. They're misrepresenting their people, because basically they're allowing for the Iroquois to call us all Black. So the Iroquois is working with the Negropean, evidenced by the fact that most of us still don't know that we're Indians. And so then we have the third culprit, which is the United States Corporation, which they already have reincorporated from being the United States of America to being the United States. So they're not representing their constituents either. They're not representing the foreigner like they were supposed to. So we have three elements that work together to defraud all their constituents. So the three have something in common, okay? And what they do is they have lumped us all together. That's what they've done. The Iroquois Confederacy. And why, again, why is he now basically saying that the Iroquois represents all Indians? Well, most of us are saying something about a turtle, right? So we don't hear any other narrative. Well, whose narrative is that? So is the Iroquois representing your narrative? You tell me. Okay? Okay, so let's move on. Neither of the three of this unholy trinity are representing any of their constituents. It's all a big misrepresentation with the goal of lumping us all together, so the three of those elements can live like the happy, wealthy trinity. So all three of those are ciphering off the wealth and the rights of all of the constituents underneath them. Okay, is what I come up with so far. And as I get it, I will look to give it. But right now, from my accumulated knowledge, this is what I'm seeing. So that is why, where we read there are three sovereigns, the state, the federal. So the once again, the republic was supposed to be the land soil states. So they are one of the sovereigns, that through the states. Now that would be the republic. But they're all conceding to the United States, which is the District of Columbia. And they have given their constituents over to the United States Corporation. And for them to do that, evidently, they are getting a payday of some sort. And they continue in the fraud. We're talking the Indian representatives. We're talking the state representatives. We're talking the federal, right? They have all bled into the federal. And the federal has fictionalized everyone. So each three of these constituents have to go to their uplink and complain, asking, what the hell are you doing? The state nationals are doing it. They're going to the republic, basically. The feds are, let's see. No, wait a minute. Wait. Which one is which? I'm getting them. Let me see. So I'm saying the state would be represented by the Negropean. Right. Okay. So yes, the states had the next level of sovereignty, according to Anna, which everything the woman says is like facts. The states had the higher level of sovereignty next to the people. So it was what we had agreed to was that each of these three factions would be sovereigns. But what those uplinks decided was, I said, no, you won't. We will represent your sovereignty. You will be our slaves. You see? So again, Anna says that the states had the next highest level of sovereignty. I want to say after the Indians, because we had the highest, or we're supposed to. So what the states did was hand over that to the Fed construct. Okay. And in that federal system is where we were all made United States citizens, which is the Indians gave up their people, betrayed their people. The Negropeans betrayed their people, and they have given, those two have supplied the slaves for the federal system, is what I'm seeing right now. Okay. We didn't even get into this reading, but we will. But I did have that in, on my heart to talk about as well, and it's just coming out. So Indians would have to deal with the Iroquois Confederacy. All Indians is what I'm seeing. And they would have to be put to task as to what is going on. You know that we're Indians. Now, the panel of Empress Holbert, where Chief Alligator, what he concluded, and I hope I got him right on this, is that the Black Caucus is what is now what the real Iroquois have morphed into. You see, with their fraud, they had to disappear. All of them have to disappear, basically, once they hand you over to the federal fictional system and made you all foreigners, basically, because the District of Columbia is not actually part of the land soil of, it's not considered to be part of the United States. So you've all been made foreigners, okay? Indians as well as foreigners. But the Negropean, they may be the most hard to recognize of the three. Because they are basically your European Negroes who are supplanting the Indians with the blessing of, I hate to say it, it's looking like the Iroquois Confederacy. We have to, again, if everybody's walking around talking about a turtle island, that is an Iroquois thing. It is not every tribe of the Americas thing. Okay. So so when you go to say, why are you saying that we are being all dominated by the Iroquois? Well, are you one of those who believe in a turtle island? Okay, it came from the Iroquois. So did you know that, or did you not know that? I didn't know that, and I'm very clear that's why I did that video, because I needed to get some basics. So that's something Indians will have to ask themselves. Where's your narrative coming from about being an Indian? Do you know? Or you just go with that, oh, all Indians say that we on a turtle. So if you're just saying that and you don't know where it came from, okay, then you're under Iroquois influence. Okay. Can we get an amen on that or what? Okay. So, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Because I know that's going to be questionable. How are we under the Iroquois? You got to figure that out. If I'm giving you the basics. You got to go work from there. Okay. I've never heard any of the other Indian creation stories. I've from what my experience is, I'm hearing that people are saying that we all call this Turtle Island. No, we didn't. The Iroquois did. So who's representing it? Okay, you'll say no, I say yes. Okay, we just have to agree to disagree. Okay. So Indians will have to call Iroquois, or if they're hiding as the Black Caucus, that just like Chief Alligator said. The Negropeans are going to be hard because I think they just might be the Negropean. In all honesty, they would have to be the Black nobility. They would have to be. They would have to be direct relations to the monarchy that are masquerading as just another Black, quote unquote, Black person in America. But you see, they need the Indians to be part of that to get that shit off. Because if they come in as Negropeans, we're gonna say, go back the fuck home. So that it's very important that they mix in with the Indians. And what happens? The Indians lose their identity. They become Black. And again, if you don't see not a one quote unquote Black tribe federally, well, we don't want to be federally recognized, but if all your federal Indians are looking Mongolian, you've been betrayed by your uplink. Okay? By and large. Okay? So Anna is trying to, in other words, yes, she's reestablishing the state level by the people of the state to go back to being state citizens as opposed to United States citizens. And to be honest, the United States, they don't really have a people under them, right? They're basically pooling the immigrants and the Indians as their people. They don't really have a people. They were supposed to be a service to the people, the immigrants and the Negropeans, basically. But again, I'm using the model that Kalinago provided, and I'm using it because I happen to agree with it. But again, what did he say? He said that that the Iroquois, this was his words, not mine, but again, I'm saying that I'm finding truth to it. The Iroquois represented all Indians of the Americas. The Republic represented the Negropeans. So when we look and we see those pictures of those men dressed up, and representing the South, I would say that those were the Negropean. Now they're going to say it was us, Indians. No, it was you misrepresenting me and the beginnings of pulling me into the federal system. And the federal system has its own state system, okay? Because the original states were not supposed to be puppets of the feds. Now they are, because the feds created the fictitious state of whatever your state is. State of whatever your state is. That is what the feds created. After they got us all pulled in under a federal footing, then they recreated the state as something they created. And now what we're going to see, that's a good segue, okay? Because that's what this is all about. That's why we got to make sure we know the origin of whatever it is that we call ourselves being under. Now, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it without mincing my words. we can't go in under Iroquois construct because Iroquois have very effectively made themselves one and the same as the colonizer. They can redeem themselves. I don't think there's an incentive for them to do so. They depend on, or at least in the past, I to some degree, we're supposed to be too brainwashed for them to even need to use gunpowder against us. But that's originally how they were able to dominate, with the gunpowder of their partner, which would have been the Negro people. Again, the feds don't really have a people. It's the Indians and the immigrants who are being made over into federal property by being made United States citizens. So then the two seats are open. So now that there's no real Indians under the Iroquois, now you can have the Native Americans. But that's, basically, we Indians know that they're Native Americans. Sometimes they will make the error of calling themselves Indians. Well, because there's no Indians here anymore. We've been federalized into blacks, which have no legal standing. See, when we get a real government one day, soon, hopefully, it won't be allowed to have, shall we say, stateless or nationless entities roaming around for it to make target practice. That will be one of the major things in a true Indian government. We will not, there won't be any fake identities that are allowed to exist, so that they can be denationalized. Okay, because that's what the purpose of being black is. It's so your monarchies can make sure that they have a slave class that they can, on the down low, do whatever the hell they want. Your scientific experiments, your target practice. That is what being nationalist, a nationalist black affords you. Those people who still want black power. You better rethink that one. So what was that? Something going all over the place. So that's a good lead into tracing back to your uplink. Okay. Right now, our uplink is the United States Corporation. We've been handed over to that entity for elimination. Okay. Whether it be a physical elimination or a paper elimination, I think it all leads to a physical elimination. I think the point of the paper genocide is to make a way for the physical. And that is the thing that we Americans really have to see. We have to see that if you have a system that purposely denationalizes you or makes you a fiction, that is because somewhere in their plan, you will be either an outright slave, on the down low, of course, or you will be a victim to all. So it won't be necessarily like a gun range or electric chair kind of thing. What it will be is, say, for instance, food games. Let's try this new artificial apple. Let's see if this could fool them, and they eat this shit. And if it kill them, oh well. But really, it's like, how can we completely override naturally occurring things like fruits, like vegetables, like people, like animals, so that we can have full jurisdiction. And one day, the dream of a system like this is that, yeah, we can literally have a Westworld going on. A Westworld. If anyone is familiar with the series Westworld, it's where wealthy people got to go into what amounts to a real life sort of video or actually it wasn't video. It had a lot of technical, like it was like a let's say an AI type of world where you had robots that were made to look real so that the wealthy game players can go in and shoot, rape, kill, pillage. Really, Westworld is the vision of our priesthood. They've already convinced themselves that they are God's little helper and that you are merely a sinner. And they've convinced you that you were born in sin. You see, I don't believe that, but some people actually prefer, yes, you heard me correctly. Some people prefer to be considered that they were born in sin, okay? That is your preference. I know that I wasn't, and I'm going to work from that perspective, okay? So yeah, we're from all looks of things, that's the world of that our these are people, you got to remember, these are people that don't go to work like you every day, right? They're bored, okay? So they watch you and they say, well, what if I could sort of take this situation and I could just sit back and I could work through them, but I'm sitting on my ass, but they are like my avatar. Yeah, that's another dream world of our priesthood. I mean, the monarchy is secondary to the priesthood. You see, because you first have to establish a spiritual construct where the people are seen as sinful losers in need of some kind of fix. So basically, your Christ idea will lead to you being done over, okay, into a more perfectly obedient what does that edict in Islam, I think it is, surrender, submission, and y'all think that that's cool. So yeah, you've already been given your programs through the religions that you follow. You see, submit, obey. I know people get tired of me saying this, but what is said to be direct quotes from your Christ was obey your master, you see. So yeah. When it comes to Hebrew Israelites, they're given a sort of a reverse psychology type of deal, where you were already slaves, so now it's your turn to be the master, you see. So it's always going to be a slave master situation. And I guess the object of the game is join forces with those that are going to be the slave master. Iroquois, Negropeans, join forces, and you can be one of us that's going to be going into Westworld after we done made these people over into virtually robots with the little things we're going to put inside their little blood vessels, that over time They're going to be, you know, our little puppets, electronically remote controlled. So you can join us and have fun with the Westworld avatar situation we're going to create, or you can be one of them. That's the choice. And so our Iroquois said, "Oh, no, we down with you, baby. We gonna get this in with you." Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So yeah, as you might understand, it's really not about white people in that scenario, but it's more about monarchies and priesthoods. See, if our people can get their little heads out of the sand and see what's really going on, there's going to be white slaves as well as black ones, as well as Indian ones. Okay? So when you're ready to stop doing the, oh, look at that white man did to me, when you're ready to stop playing that game and start looking at, what should we call it? Levels of nobility, then maybe you'll be able to deal with that instead of wasting your time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to look at it that white people are going to be necessary in the on the as your little opponent, so that you never look at who is behind or above all of you. So while Indians are wasting their energy fighting just another puppet, you never solve the issue. You're going to just be fighting that thing forever. It's not real. I'm not saying that Caucasians are not real. I'm saying that the notion that they are your worst enemy, no, that would be someone who looks like you. Okay, because you'll never know that they're your enemy. Now the Caucasian is just more for distraction. Okay, but some of our people will go right, it'll go one in one ear and out the other. They are so dedicated to blaming the white man. Again, King James was a whole black man, and this whole shit began with him. So that's another segue. Well, it didn't actually. If we go further back again, we're gonna come across Akhenaten, Menace, Narmer. I think we're gonna have to include him, unfortunately. I was happy to see on somebody's panel they were actually talking about the Scorpion King. It didn't make sense what they were saying, but they took it back to that, and I thought that was. I said, "Wow, okay, so now we're going back to the bait. Now I'm going to the origin of a thing." All right, now, but the narrative that they were saying kind of didn't make sense, because they were saying, what were they saying? That Narmer was basically working with the Scorpion King or something to that effect. And no, he overtook the Scorpion King. That, I mean, come on now. That's what it was. That's how he became the first one to unite Upper and Lower Tamari. And a lot of our need. Let's Tamari. Oh, go back a few videos, okay? We are Tamari. But the priesthood, what they do is remove your first letter so that they can basically rename you and then have dominion over you. So Tamari would be the origin. Amari is what the priesthoods cooked up so that they can begin to eat away at that first birthright designation. Okay. So the segue. Okay, I'm all over the place, right? But so Bill of Rights. What we're going to look for in this article is the origin. Okay, if you haven't figured out that's really what this is all about, because as we learn, I think more and more, we will see that it's all about how do you establish your sovereignty? You have to look back and find where it was, because there's a lot of factions trying to take that role. And I was a little bit taken aback when I read this. So let me read it. And again, once we're going to read this and see where what led me to this. A Bill of Rights is a formal declaration of the fundamental rights of individuals within a particular domain. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting because I basically thought the Bill of Rights is just the people of the land, like the people who made it, right? A Bill of Rights is a formal declaration of the fundamental rights of individuals within a particular domain. I just thought that was interesting wording, domain. What about land? See, already land is not being, so that's a red flag. Let's just say it's a red flag. Okay? We don't want to talk about land because we don't really want them on the land. Its purpose is to protect those rights from any arbitrary, unfair, or capriciously applied actions by the government. So again, the red flag here, why are we not talking about land? Because that's what's going to be up for grabs, right? So let's use the word domain. Individuals in a domain. What about people on a land? So already, this is the crack. Let's call it. See, all of these amount to like the crack in the Titanic. That how that went. So that's a crack. That's a crack. First, we're not talking about men and women. We're talking about individuals. So that's a kind of a word spell. When you substitute men and women, I realize any other word besides men and women, I think you got to watch out. I think that's a crack. I think that's a word spell, a word replacement. So now we're talking about individuals. You see, they can't say men and women because men and women are truly sovereign just by being men and women. So, boy, oh boy. Okay, its purpose is to protect those rights from any arbitrary, unfair, or capriciously applied actions by the government. Although such statements are sometimes promulgated by legislative enactments, most usually a Bill of Rights is part of a nation's constitution. Okay. So, a Bill of Rights is usually part of a nation's constitution, including a Bill of Rights in a constitution seeks to immunize them from infringement by legislation and other governmental policies, and thereby to set limits on governmental actions on behalf of human rights. So let me tell you what I'm getting from this, and you will have to, think about what this means for you. Already, we're in a situation, if you read between the lines, what you're hearing is basically colonizer behavior. Because I think it would be understood that a government for the people, by the people, you shouldn't have to worry about infringements. Is that the word they use? By government policies, right? Because you see, when you read something like this, it's like you're being set up already to expect infringement. So it's like they make it sound like it's just natural that your government is not for you. So you need a Bill of Rights because the government for you by you is going to come for you. Well, not if it's government by me and mine, right? So we're reading about the Bill of Rights, and I have to admit it sent a chill down my spine. But then I reminded myself, really, American Indians, we're really not under this bullshit. I think we can refer to it when we're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. But in other words, we were grabbed into this system based on our ignorance and not being made aware of how this system is set up. So the historical background, that's where I need you to put on your hearing aids. And I would like these pop-ups to go away, but they're not. And again, the reason why I didn't turn this into a PDF is because I don't want see this word here, human rights. That would be, instead of the word being like that, be a whole link. And I don't, it makes it harder to read. Okay. So bear with these many advertisements. So funny, you make a video and you're already a commercial, just by reading something, it's like I'm a freaking commercial, right? Okay. So already a Bill of Rights, like it sound like y'all expecting something, y'all got something planned, something dealing with infringements. Why would you do that though? Okay, historical background. I mean, another idea is that if they're collecting taxes unlawfully and illegally, then they might start to get jiggy with it, infringe on your rights, right? Like, we needed some more money, so I guess that's a way, that even a good government for the people by the people might get corrupted. Yeah, I guess there's all kinds of ways to get, but I think the most lethal is when it's a people foreign to you. But I guess money or, collecting of money can, make you turn on even your own people, right? Okay, so we maybe don't have to lay it squarely on the colonizer, but it doesn't help that it's a colonizer. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. Historical background, you probably read before me. The English Bill of Rights. The what Bill of Rights? So already, right? It's like, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. The English Bill of Rights, not the American, you know. Interesting that American doesn't have a language, right? Like England, English, right? America, Americanish? No, no. So the word spell is giving a language to a nation, and another word spell is like you're all American, but you're going to speak English. Okay. Mm. Mm. Okay. The English Bill of Rights. Crack, red flag, crack, crack in the bow, or whatever, the hole, or the English Bill of Rights. Okay. Yeah. 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 I had to sit with that one.
The English Bill of Rights from 1689 is usually considered to have ushered in the practice of having a distinct enumeration of guarantees designed to protect individual rights. In the Glorious Revolution, 1688, Parliament had deposed the hereditary King James II. Okay, so that's a big bit of information that I didn't know. But you see how King James plays into this? He was deposed by Parliament for violating the true, ancient, and indubitable rights and liberties of the English people. Woof. We gotta read it again. Okay. So this is happening in England. This Bill of Rights, is that what we're reading? But as we know, England kind of had a little accident and had a little dumping onto Indian land. And then all of a sudden now, the people she dumped here is talking about the Bill of Rights. You ain't even on your land no more, though. And so now okay, so are you telling me that this is, okay, let's read it again. The English, wasn't American, the English Bill of Rights, but we speak English. So is it American? Is it English? Who knows, right? The English Bill of Rights, but then they talk about King James, though. Okay, the English Bill of Rights of 1689 is usually considered to have ushered in the practice of having a distinct enumeration of guarantees designed to protect individual rights. Now, what's coming to my mind? Y'all gonna be mad at me, and you know what? I'm just gonna have to accept that that's the way it's going to be. We all hear that the English fell in love with whose way of laws? The Iroquois, right? You're going to always say that, oh, he's picking on the Iroquois, die. Yeah, that, or you need to wake up to what's going on here. Which one is it? But this is, I hope people are recalling that the Constitution is said to be modeled after something from the Iroquois. So then when I tell you that we are all living under an Iroquois construct, am I wrong? But it's Iroquois with a little bit of colonized on the side. Okay? Okay. So I'm just going to say it this way. This is the second time it happened, and I'm not going to even say where I heard it, but I find that I say now I throw out something about Algonquin, right? And then you go about your day, you might stumble upon a video from a allegedly, I guess, Indian source. And you all of a sudden you hear little statements like, well, the Algonquins wasn't that innocent. And that was one of the recent ones I heard. Now, I'm not saying that the person was referring to me, but it's just interesting that it feels like from my point of view, it's like you throw out something about Algonquin, and then somebody throws back a negative about Algonquin. So like we have defenders. Well, I would have to believe that are from an Iroquois source, right? Like if I say something about Algonquin and then I hear somebody say, well, the Algonquins wasn't innocent, I'm not saying that they were, but I'm talking about what I know to have occurred, everything I read. And again, you don't even have to be like a Dane Calloway level researcher to find this. Okay. It's like, again, that last video, I was not looking for Iroquois versus Algonquin fight stuff. I wanted to know where Turtle Island that term came from. But the funny thing is, when I pulled up that piece and they started out talking about the Iroquois Algonquin beef, I was like, well, wait a minute. This sounds familiar. And so I had to go with that because it's not just me picking a fight or something. I was shocked. But it's like everything I read, that's everything I look at when I'm not even looking for it, is what I read when I go to read, about Algonquin. It'll inevitably say that they had beef with Iroquois. And then same thing with Iroquois, they were at some odds with Algonquin. So Indians might want to say, well, we just got to figure out that we the Indians first. And I would agree with that. But the thing is, once we get past that, we got another hurdle to if let's just hear me this one time. If a break between two factions of Indians allowed for a colonizer to come in and do themselves, you don't think we need to address the beef between these two Indians? Oh, you think we could just go back, just don't forget about all that. Let's just join hands and kumbaya, and we act like the rift wasn't big enough that it caused all Indians to be reclassified? When we read the document about the Walter Plecker genocide a few videos ago, and the writer says she first dips her toe in the water and she says many natives, now she's calling us natives, to the detriment of their indigenous heritage, were called colored, Negro. Then later on she goes, all were called colored, Negro, Black. So she eased into it, but at least she said it. So a rift between two Indians, Iroquois and Algonquin, caused the Algonquin to be taken off of the area that the colonizer took, right? And then a Turtle Island narrative becomes the narrative of all Indians. What does it look like to you? Who is behind the Indian narrative? And then whoever's behind the Indian narrative, they had to be the ones behind the reclassification narrative and shenanigans. Because they're not standing up and saying, wait, these people are not colored, they're not Black, they're not Negro. They are definitely not African American. No one is saying that, right? So if we are under an Iroquois version, when is the Iroquois going to spill the beans? Instead, are they trying to say the Iroquois are Mongolian? Is that what the Iroquois are doing? Oh, we're not Indian. We're the Black Caucus, for instance. Okay, so then you're the one who is the biggest traitor. Yeah, I said it. I had to say it. What else can I say? What else is a man supposed to say when everything he's looking at points in one direction? And Indians don't want to talk about it. I think what we're having I hate to say it, but you know I'm going to say it, right? I told you I had a Mercury and Leo, right? I told you ain't nobody going to shut my mouth, right? Unless, of course, it's YouTube and they're doing their shenanigans. That's um it's looking to me that it is an Iroquois base that's behind or trying to orchestrate this awakening. I'm going to say it again. It looks to me, from what I see so far, and that's subject to change, don't worry, that the Indian awakening is being monitored by an Iroquois source, shall we say. And in there, what's going to happen is that you're not, first of all, you're not going to find out what real Indian sovereignty is supposed to be. That you're not going to find out. And I just go from there. You're being invited to be part of the corporation, shall we say. But that thing we had before the colonizer was here, that in an Iroquois setup, that is a thing of the past, never to be spoken of or resurrected again. That's what you're getting with Iroquois. Algonquins of today, I think, also don't understand what real sovereignty is, and they're trying to do it the Iroquois way. But they forgot. They forgot that the Iroquois way puts you in Canada. So you trying to work with this, baby, it's not going to work. Okay. 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 That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. But again, the British fell in love with a document that the Iroquois had. See, they fell in love with the Algonquin land, but their other love was for the Iroquois documents. So they had to choose. I guess it kind of worked hand in hand, actually. Yeah, and I feel the Iroquois made sure that the colonizer didn't have to worry about Algonquin land anymore. You see, because Algonquins are from Canada. They used to be a long time ago in a distant past, they had something on the East Coast, but we don't recall that because the colonizer wanted that. Okay. So I'm sorry, I moved away from the reading. But we were saying Parliament had deposed the hereditary King James II for violating the true ancient and indubitable rights and liberties of the English people in America. It's so funny how it just came over into our shores, right? Iroquois, ain't that funny how that happened, though? Those rights and liberties were largely unwritten, customary practices stemming from Magna Carta. So the people were told what rights and liberties were from the Magna Carta. But did they write the Magna Carta? We just going to have to look at that, I guess. When Parliament offered the throne to Wilkes, Parliament offered the throne? Hmm. Hmm. Ain't that interesting? So we kind of have Parliament. I, I'm smelling priesthood in the Parliament, because somebody is over the monarchy, and we should know by now what that entity is. It's a religious one, right? So when Parliament offered the throne, they can make offers of to William of Orange and his wife Mary. They wanted to make sure that the new monarchs would respect those rights. So I guess we got to wonder what Parliament is made of. Are they the people? Are they the priests? So Parliament wanted to make sure. It's interesting because it's not the people. That's what I can't get past right now. So they didn't say anything about the English people yet. I don't. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, so but the English people are getting their rights from the Magna Carta. So they have a representative. See, we gotta be very aware of our representatives, right? Because we don't have any right now from the we the people bunch, or the men and women of the land. Yeah, because somebody said you gotta even watch out for the people, because that's not really men and women of the land either. So that's another word, that we gotta wonder about. Really, if we don't understand by now that most of this was done with word spells, and so we have to mind our P's and Q's quite literally, then just go back to being colored, okay? Because you ain't ready for the depth and breadth of this thing here we got going on, with a shitload of word spells. Everywhere you look, it's a word spell. But the word is it's not just an airy fairy type of, it's a literal thing, because when the word colored becomes part of legislation, but there's no laws protecting that thing, we got a problem, right? That word spell has now created a whole stateless entity that are going to basically, on the down low, be made slaves, because they don't know that colors there's nothing that the law has to the law does not have to recognize something called colored or black, or Negro was just something telling you all the rights you don't have, more than giving you anything. It was taking away. What we will find is that I don't think it's in this document, but basically when we're talking federal Indian law, you're talking about a set of laws that do not include all of the Bill of Rights. You're getting some of the Bill of Rights in federal Indian law. That's another thing. I don't think federal people looking, for federal recognition and recognition from either federal or state. When you do, you're gonna go under federal Indian law, and federal Indian law is a fraction of the Bill of Rights. So in other words, how does that look? What it looks like is that foreigners will have more rights than Indians who are in the federal system, because the foreigners get the full list of the Bill of Rights, which is still not quite the best document, but it's better than getting part of the Bill of Rights. That's what Indians get. in the federal system. You see, the federal, they are very clear that they have come to colonize. So they done told you, we know what we supposed to be doing. And if y'all Indians don't know your role, that is not our problem. But you can have our laws that whatever we cook up for you if you want to. We don't have a problem with that. And Indians be like, okay, I take it. Thank you. Thank you, Daddy. If Indians don't wake up, I mean, this is our life we're talking about, Indians. This is not a joke. Our people are like on a banana peel to being police target practice. And I don't think we understand that. I think we kind of think that we just like everybody else in America, right? Yeah, that's what y'all think, right? I mean, they don't have it much better, but I'm telling you, at least the foreigner has a homeland that would somewhat step in for them. Indians that think we can play patty cake with the corporation and that's good enough, we get some benefits and privileges, we good. You're setting yourself up for eternal slavery. Okay? Either you want sovereignty in its fullest, or you will be a slave. There is no middle ground. The middle ground, what the middle ground would be, is your lifespan going downhill from there. That is the middle ground. That area, that gray area where you think you have something solid that you're standing on, and little by little, it's pulled from under you like a Jenga game. And then you wonder why you are at the bottom once again. Because you settled for benefits and privileges. You wanted to be federally recognized. You thought being in a corporation would help save you. No. All of that is from your colonizer. You first have to stand up and know who you are. That's all it is. It's no complicated thing. First, say who you are. And please don't tell this corporation that you're a fucking United States citizen. Oh, God. It's like, at least wear your bulletproof vest if you do that. If you're dumb enough to do that, okay? At least put on your bulletproof vest, okay? And keep it on. And in the helmet and everything. Okay? And then be prepared to pay all your taxes and all of that, okay? Because those things, and then also don't forget to keep your health wellness. And does it every people got wellness programs now? Yeah. I don't think that's for Indians, but really it's for nobody. But you Indians, if y'all got some kind of, all of a sudden you got everybody care about your health all of a sudden since post pandemic, and now everybody wondering about how your health doing. You haven't figured out why your health is all of a sudden so important yet. You ain't figured that out. And we got to see the prognosis of what was done up in here, see if it's working, or try to make it so it don't maybe slow it down a little bit so that you don't get put two and two together too quickly. So how about you coming for a checkup? We got all this now. It's at your job now. You gotta, some of y'all might have now you got a wellness center in the office. And wellness. Oh man. There was a movie that came out, I think, what was it called? The Cure for Wellness. Oh boy. If they don't tell us everything they're doing in their little movies, I don't know what does. It's like, it's just crazy. It's just but there I go. I think I'll go off on tangents sometime because the reality is so, when you read this, you get another education that you never had.
it's like, let me just drift off to somewhere else. Give me the beat, boy, and free my soul. And I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away, yo. But that's not really gonna help, right? Um uh okay. So King James, Parliament didn't want him no more. And they would say, William, you want to come up in this piece? You and your wife Mary, you all ready to come up? Y'all have, but y'all first got to go by a Bill of Rights. Well, that's a nice gesture, right? Hence, Parliament drew up the Bill of Rights and conditioned the offer of the crown. Before we put this crown on your head, you got to take this Bill of Rights. So it's just a little frightening because you have a potential king, but what if he really, in his heart, don't really want the Bill of Rights? Like, in other words, the setup, there's something wrong with this setup. First of all, we don't know who this parliament is made up of. I think we're supposed to believe that those are the people of the land. I think that's what we're supposed to think, right? That would be what you would naturally think, or Although since that time, English, later United Kingdom governments have generally respected human rights. There's another word spell. Human rights. I think it's generally understood that men and women have God-given rights. But when you start calling them people and human and stuff, that's when it becomes questionable. So they generally respected human rights. Well, who called it human rights, though? That same history revealed the potential weakness of a legislatively promulgated Bill of Rights. Here's the sentence this is what made me want to do this video. The next sentence. If Parliament was the source of those rights, as opposed to stemming from the authority of the people themselves, a subsequent parliament could amend or even abridge those protections. The power of Parliament led the American Revolutionary Era pamphleteer Thomas Paine in his famous The Rights of Man to debunk British pretensions to even having a constitution. If Parliament was the source of those rights in the Bill of Rights, as opposed to stemming from the authority of the people, another word spell. How about as opposed to stemming from the authority of the men and women of the land themselves? Then a subsequent parliament could amend, even abridge, and I'm going to add, even revoke those protections. But I think I just got blown away from the next sentence. This power of Parliament led the American Revolutionary Era pamphleteer Thomas Paine in his famous The Rights of Man. This led him to debunk British pretensions to even having a constitution. So Thomas Paine, if I'm reading this correctly, he was saying even you having a constitution was a pretense, boo. That wasn't real. Oh boy. When we read something like this is a lesson in finding the source of your, in this case, rights. Did it come from you? Because if it didn't, that means Parliament was the source. And if Parliament was the source, then Parliament could amend, abridge, and I'm going to say it again, revoke those protections. This is the system that we're in right now with Congress. So the United States version of Parliament evidently is Congress. And when I tell Indians, if Congress is your plenary authority, as they have named themselves, because in the reality of things, they're not supposed to be an authority over Indians, period. But once they pull you into their jurisdiction, they have supreme, plus plenary means supreme authority over federal Indians. So Indians, once again, what is our task? Our task is standing up and reclaiming the status of Indian not taxed. But from there, we wouldn't do what Congress did, was proceed to make a whole bunch of laws about us. No, we make the laws about us, but we telling you that we're not in your system. But again, Indians, that Constitution, we were mentioned only in the commerce clauses, basically. Indians not taxed. One was the 14th Amendment, which shouldn't even, that doesn't apply, that least of all, because yeah, that was just about getting us to be tax paying. But the other two references was about commerce. But what I'm saying is look at the entity, how it dealt with us, just with commerce alone. And let's review how it dealt with us. How did Congress regulate commerce between the Indians and the shall we say, the immigrants? Oh, well, they erased Indians from the equation. So really, technically speaking, we don't even have a commerce dealings anymore, because we don't exist. So they said that we were Indians not taxed, and then they wiped us out of existence on paper. You see, that was the paper genocide. So really, we are not anywhere. There's nothing that, what am I saying? I'm saying at this point, we don't even want to have a commerce contract with this entity. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we need, first of all, to establish that we were those Indians not taxed before we were paper genocided, and those references to us became references, roughly speaking, of Native Americans. It's another word spell, and they
that's a whole other situation. What we got to understand is once they created Native Americans to take our place, they had to give them any rights they felt as privileges and benefits, but that were not the full Bill of Rights of even what the immigrants got. I'm going to have to pause for a minute. So sorry, but we shall continue. I am back. We are back. There's a part of me that is thinking to make a part 2 because I'm at the 1.5 hour mark, a little over. And I know long videos are long videos, so I'm going to try to be mindful. And I think I might say, let's reconvene and pick up on this document in the next video. It's Friday, and it's very possible that I would look to maybe finish this when I get off from work. Thank you for watching. We will continue. Till next time. Stay highly favored.